this project, this Find 40 project, came out of that conversation that you saw with Brian to really identify. Initially, it'll probably expand, but initially, 40 bright lights, brothers in San Diego, men of excellence and purpose and passion, to change the narrative a little bit, which you do. Woo, baby, what you do on the regular. So, you know, I'm gonna try to hit 10 in the arts and creativity, 10 in education, 10 in like what I'm calling healthcare, faith space, wellness, and then maybe 10 in like
Mhm.
civic, like politics and even money moves, economics. We'll see. That's kind of my rough thinking. And you move, you could be in any of those buckets. You could be in all those buckets. They're kind of just arbitrary. But regardless, if you look up brothers moving in San Diego, Nate Howard is on the first page near the top, right? So, so the way I craft this, and I'm kind of leaning towards, is really kind of some basic questions that will hopefully reveal some of your models and your mindsets and how you do what you do and are moving at the levels that you're moving. So my first set of kind of introductory questions are just around, you know, how did you get here?
Mhm.
What are you doing here?
Mhm.
And what's next? Like, where are you going?
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
So, and just that conversation alone will,
yeah,
the
yeah. Let me
rest.
get some water. Let me get some water for you.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
You know, make sure I'm hydrated.
Man, I just filled up my cup too beforehand.
Go.
I have a fresh cut. My shirt's a little wrinkled in these COVID times. I literally took a shirt off I had on for 2 days, brother.
I'm repping the brand. I got the B hat, and then this is really one of my middle school students made from our Brave Entrepreneur program. So I'm repping.
Mm,
You know,
mm,
you know, it's
I saw it when you got up. I saw the backside said King, and I was just literally when I was in the shower. I said I'm about to have a King conversation, like King to King conversation. I literally said that.
yeah,
So to
yeah.
see you get up and to get that like little bit of synchronicity, that kismet thing right there, I was like,
You know what? I
yeah, yeah,
forgot it said that on the back because I don't look at the
yeah. I'm
metal
sure.
on the back. But thank you for reminding me. That's what
Yeah.
it said.
Yes. Yes. For real. And you were doing that. You were getting your king on. So, I will properly introduce you before we put this on there. But just tell me, we're going to try to steer towards an hour ish or less, but we'll just see how we do. But, you know what it is. You know what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
So, in that spirit, what would you say if I asked you what brought you here? How did you get here?
Yeah. So movement B, our whole motto: tell your story before they do. Really, it's just about a journey of me trying to be strategic on how to make change. Right.
Mm,
Um, the movement started while I was a student at USC. Um, went to USC, predominantly white institution, dealt with microaggressions. Towards the last couple of days of classes, a big incident happened that really like woke me up. I had a party, mostly students of color. Uh, Officers came to shut it down, but not a few officers. 79 LAPD officers showed up to my house in riot gear, South Los Angeles, 23rd and Hoover. They made a barricade on my street. Meanwhile, there was another party going on. Friends of mine, mainly white party goers, they were told to stay in the house and be safe while they handled us, the criminals, across the street. I was handcuffed that night, and it hit me that I thought I was beating racism by my academics, that I was a scholar, and that I was different. And that was a realization that no degree or no kind of academic advancement is going to put me out of racism and discrimination. So we had a protest the next day on campus. Um, Big media, I actually made the front page of the LA Times. We're in national news. I'm
mm,
out here rallying, protesting with students on campus, and speaking out and thinking that this was the solution.
mm,
Uh, and I had seen incidents before. I mean, my time in college, we experienced Oscar Grant That was one of the first that I kind of got involved in protesting. And then Trayvon Martin was, the next big thing that I went out and protested about. And then I was experiencing my own protest of what happened to me as a student at USC. And I think that was the time I realized that the media had a big part in this, which I'm going to speak on today, and why I think they're one of our enemies. And what I realized was that they weren't going to keep the story alive, and that it was up to me to keep the story of what I experienced alive to make a difference. They're going to go on to the next news cycle, whatever else was in the news media, for that time. And so that's when I came back to San Diego. I started Movement B at my high school, Helix High.
What year?
Program. This is 2013. At an after school program with all 10 students. It was Be the Voice. It was just a poetry club. And, that program grew from 10 students to about 40 students coming after school voluntarily. I realized we created a home away from home, and that a lot of students were looking for their voice the same way I was looking for my voice as a student on campus, and trying the best way to express it and share my pain, my struggle of who I am and my identity. And, what we realized in that home away from home, students are dealing with anxiety, stress, mental health, suicide. My parents are having a divorce. I'm lonely, whatever it may be, right? And that is what I speak to in regards to Movement B, is the emotional trauma that individuals deal with that I think a lot of people don't speak of. You see Black death in the media, or even the experience that I experienced with the police. Our first action is to react, whether that's out of anger or whether as trying to find a solution to make change. But nobody begins to first think, wait a minute, what about my mental health? What about what I'm dealing with emotionally? Because I can't create any solution or be productive in anything until I first understand what I'm dealing with on the inside, which, first of all, is years of trauma that I've never dealt with, generational trauma that has been passed down. And so before I've even dealt with that, I'm adding on other things that are triggering that. And now I've created this enemy, my oppressor, and now I'm mentally enslaved, right? So that's why I say I'm the greatest, and I know that. I'm the greatest, and I own that, because it's power in realizing that nobody has control over my mentality. So that's where B comes from, the idea of brave entrepreneur. I'm not saying that everybody has to go out and be an entrepreneur, but I do believe that we should have an entrepreneurial mindset. I still think that there's a lot of modern day slavery, people doing things that don't excite them, that they don't love, for resources that are crumbs, right? That keep you enslaved to a system that was never designed for you. And then the other acronym, and beyond the acronym, B means to just be. Grass doesn't try to grow, it grows. Birds don't try to fly. Come on, baby. Everything is natural and at ease. And if you are a spiritual, religious person, you understand that if you have faith in God, that all is well. And that, he's making a way. And that, when you allow the enemy to anger you and frustrate you, you allow him to conquer you. Because he's going to poke. The devil's going to do what he does. But you have to maintain strong. You have to maintain in your armor, in knowing that all is a blessing. So that's what I try to remind students. That's what I try to remind myself. That's the power of Movement B. It's helping youth through their emotional maturity, giving them the confidence to, be the best version of themselves. And so that program started at Helix. We launched it at various programs, and now to date, we're trying to build all over the world.
Oh, I saw your post the other day, you know, and you said like home office in Burbank or somewhere. I'm like, wait, where's this brother at? Is he in San Diego? Like, I see you hopping on planes to Oslo and stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
actually, does Nate still rap the Dago or what? You
No,
know,
I'm everywhere.
yeah, I see this. Yeah, I see this. You're internationally known.
No.
Um, you know that comment. I was on a call yesterday with five kind of elder brothers with my man B that we've talked about, and he is your brother. You know, y'all are family. You're gonna meet him. But he does these groups. You know, that he talked about. So there was five kind of elder cats, and then five, six, seven high school age guys, and they were talking about, you know, in this George Floyd environment that we're just seeing socialized heavily. And I do want to hear what you're talking about on the media and the imagery and the stories that are told. Um, uh, about what revolution looks like and what does an appropriate response look like? What does leadership look like? What's a solution look like? You know, these young brothers in Brooklyn, these were, you know, a lot of them artists and movers, you know, full of energy and inspiration, looking to like, you know, some of us who have climbed corporate ladders or had a modicum of success here or there doing things, but trying to live to the best of our ability as like African descended people, right? And you know, my position may be similar to yours, just based on what I'm hearing you say around, you know, our ability to affect change really is a kind of inside job. You know what I mean? When I come home to the realization that I am descended from pyramid builders and kings, it just changes. You know, if all I know is, you know, Medgar Evers' mangled face and folks' strange fruit, you know what I'm saying? Like, and necks,
I don't know.
knees on necks, and all this. If this is the imagery I drink every day about my potential and possibility,
I don't know.
you know, that's a challenging spot. That's slavery. You know what I mean? So that's a lot of the genesis of this conversation. And so hearing you speak on it, you know, that brave entrepreneurship I'm looking at, I wrote it down here. There's a guy, Derek Minor, that I kind of dig. People talk a lot of crazy about Christian hip hoppers, but Derek Minor, I appreciate he talks about ownership is the new black. And so I see him out there trying to pitch that same game, you know what I mean, and say, you know, and the brother Terrell Simmons posted something about Black Land Matters. I know he
Yeah.
was on that for a minute, you know, I think he still is. And so those kinds of
Yeah.
power, you know, is ownership and self determination.
Yeah.
Um, you know, that's just so real. So I can feel it in you as you say it, and but where you move from, I literally almost wore the movement B shirt right now. When I love it so much. It's so thick. The B doesn't like it doesn't wash off. Like I've had that shirt. I've had it for years now. I walk it, and it represents just what you said. Also, you know, black ownership, but also just this B. Like the grass doesn't have to think to grow, and the bird. Ooh, I loved it.
Come on, man.
That's right on. You know,
Yeah,
that's right
man.
on. So talk to me about, you know, I'm hearing you say there were clear markers. This is often true on any journey, right? You have these moments. So you have the USC moment, you start up in Helix, and there's a moment, aha, this home away from home thing. And now you were even building more. But what is it, do you think, that gave you, you know, what's under that for you? Why did you even have the, what's your model or what's inspiring? What's pushing you? What do you think is giving you the confidence and courage to go do this?
I love poetry. I
Mm,
love writing. Like
mm,
I love performing. I love speaking.
mm,
Right? People get do what you love. Like beyond like I'm like I've told people I'm not an activist,
mm,
right? As much people may, even though I'm out there, like
mm,
I'm not I'm doing what I love.
mm,
I love doing it. If you see it as activism, if you see it as, you know, even entrepreneurship, right? If you see it as whatever people label it as,
mm,
I'm doing what I love. And I just don't think people do what they love. Like I don't work a day in my life
mm,
at all. I get to teach kids poetry and I get to write poetry. And in the midst of that, I realize that it actually helps people.
mm, mm,
But that's my inspiration. Do
mm.
what you love. I don't, I don't, I had a job for 2 months that, and I would have worked there if it was working with youth, and I just couldn't do it. There's something in me that I can't. People call me stubborn. They've called me everything in the book.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't love it, I'm not going to do it.
Mm.
Period. Like,
So
that's
you think this was just from the gate? When you went to USC, I'm searching. What I'm digging for here is turning points around this thing, right? Because people that are watching this see a Nate maybe and they're like, man, that brother's got innate. He just popped out moving.
yeah.
And my theory is, well, no, I think people grow. Like people progress through stages and gates. There's patterns. You
Yeah.
know, so what I'm searching for in your own story are those level up spots where you were like, ooh, I need that. Like I need to add that to my game. So most folks don't go to college thinking they're going to be a poet, right? Like the society doesn't coach you into poetry unless you're surrounded and supported in ways that make you go, yeah, but guess what? I'm going to do this. So what for you encouraged you into that? That's alternative thinking. You know what I mean? Do what you love.
Okay, and I guess it's just what you said.
Mm.
Most people don't go to college thinking they could be poets. Most people don't go to, most people don't think that they can live their dream. Most people,
Mm-hmm.
and if we want to go back, I grew up. My parents said, I blame my mom
Mm.
and my dad.
Mm.
You know, uh, you can do whatever you want, son, and I believed them. I
Mm.
really did.
Mm.
They just poured it into me of like,
Mm.
oh, you can do whatever you want. And then of course they started, as parents, as I started dreaming, they're like, wait, should you do that? And I was like, yeah, you told me that I could do whatever I believe you. So again, that's important to me, and that's why Movement B works through,
Mm.
elementary kids,
Mm.
that conditioning, programming at an early age of like, you know, and again, that's why, you may have seen the video of the 11-year-old boy who's singing. It's that viral video.
Bruh, I just want to live. My dog. I was talking to a brother today who couldn't watch it because he's got two black boys like that, and he's still just dealing with the trauma of the other video, so he couldn't even get his head around it today. But
Yeah.
whoo.
And here's the thing. My honesty is I I'm proud of him,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not the video that should be going viral. Right? But personally, because when you start understanding the power of words, okay, and the power of the story that you create,
Mm-hmm.
if this black boy now has to grow up out of fear to some oppressor, then that's what he's conditioning his body to be. Okay, it's a different way of thinking, and I think that's why I'm challenging. I think a lot of us right now how we're approaching this, right? In one way, and here's what always happens, right? Nate, how do you feel? And I know the question is coming to me because I'm black. And I respond, how do you feel? I'm feeling great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm overjoyed because I know what you think I'm supposed to feel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to feel less than sad because I seen this man that looks like me killed in the media. Now I'm supposed to be drained and I'm supposed to be depressed and I'm supposed to be rallying and protesting, right? Because at that point, anytime like something happens, well, I should be angry and fired up, right? And that's what people aren't realizing. Willie Lynch syndrome is powerful. And the oppressor, the enemy, is strategic and smart. And people aren't seeing how they could be pushed and made to feel all of these emotions. Now, I say that because I have the confidence in knowing I do this work every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say that I don't get emotional
Mm-hmm.
about these things that I see and that I don't feel, because I felt them personally. And I feel not only for the stuff in the media, I feel for the kids and the different things that aren't even shared in the media. I care about the stuff that people don't even know about, because sometimes we're challenged to only care about what's dictated to us. But what's happening down the street, or to, the thousands of young black men whose stories will never be told, I hear those stories in classrooms all the time, and I feel those stories.
So how do you balance that then? So that middle ground between recognizing suffering and doing the mental math and the mental exercises to shift that and still proclaim, kingdom of God or whatever you want to proclaim on it. Like what's your methodology in that?
Emotion is a choice,
Mm-hmm.
and we have the ability to choose our emotions. Okay? So who's to say I'm supposed to feel anyway based off what I see, hear, right? And that is the power in realizing when you're focused on joy and peace and love, right? If I want to model equality, what does equality look like, right? If I want to model empowerment and Black independence and Black ownership, what does that look like? I cannot have Black ownership and independence if I am in a place of uh, depression and inferiority, begging somebody to please not kill me. I can't have ownership and sovereignty and power if I'm in that emotional state.
Mm-hmm.
Now, somebody may argue, well, aren't you then being oblivious to what's happening, and aren't you not caring? And I said, well, I've been doing this work for the last 10 years, every day. You just posted something out of a reaction of what the media told you to post. So we can have the argument. I'm working on real solution and real change. You want to be free for a couple of weeks and then be back to your regular programming.
Mm-hmm.
I do this daily.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I need to do. I know what God has called me to do to be in my lane in space. And the minute that I allow somebody to put fear and worry, they've distracted me from my purpose and the goal of what I believe our solution is.
So, ooh, man, there's so much in here. There's so much in here. So, what's your primary challenge then, if you're willing to talk about this? So I see you are clear about the vision and the way,
Yeah.
and what vibration you're trying to hit. You've responded to me on messages on some all is love, and I could feel it like vibrate out the thing. I'm like, this brother's on that thing.
Hi.
Yeah, I feel you. So so in terms of strategies, if we're strategic thinkers, what has been most helpful for you though to achieve and maintain? Like what do you feel that you have to watch for, because you frame your whole story really as a response to a crisis, right? Like something happened, like your life was going this way and you got intersected by 79 folks in the blockades and handcuffs, right? And you said, what? Discovered voice and then woo, leveled up. So even now, if we can have this conversation that we exist in the world of cause and effect, you cut me, I'll bleed, like suffering is real, things are real, like we're physical. The form is a real thing. I believe in mind and spirit too, so we can talk about that. But given that in general we're talking about cause and effect, and I know you to be a human being, certainly that's work, that's skill building. You're putting work into it to achieve these. So for yourself and for how you talk to the kids, how do what comes for you to try to throw you off of that, and what do you do to maintain that frequency?
Yeah. It really is a spiritual journey for me. I think all entrepreneurship, all the work I do is spiritual, right? I believe in intuition. I'm
Mm-hmm.
you know I'm I'm going by faith.
Mm-hmm.
Like I couldn't tell you years ago that this is what I would be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I couldn't tell you any secret code or message of this is how it works. I really feel called. I really feel connected to a divine. You know, and the more I'm in that source, the more it speaks to me. Now, I guess to kind of give you a more, I guess, concrete answer to, of like what I
What it
guess
looked
people can,
like.
understand, you know, when that incident happened to me at USC, I realized that I wasn't fighting an external power anymore, because to fight an external power is saying that I am not that power. Okay. Is saying that I'm creating a separation. And at that point, I am putting somebody above me,
Mm-hmm.
making myself now try to get whoever that above me is. You can call it the white man, you can call it the oppressor. And in modern days, some people call it Donald Trump. You can call it whatever, right? It is creating somebody above you and telling them they have access to your story, and I need you to change this, right? Now, in the reality, right? I guess if you want to put it that way, somebody's arguing, well, yeah, Nate, there's the laws, there's the systems, people are being oppressed, and you have to fight it that way so that things can change. And my argument still is that in a spiritual journey, in an understanding of who I am, for me to still react to people in that way, whatever it is meaning that I am giving somebody governance and power over me and not realizing that it's a you versus you battle. Now, in that you versus you battle, I may have the confidence, well, I gain the confidence to understand my story and my role. My role and my purpose is education, and I can do what I can to help students.
Mm-hmm.
In doing that, I gain the clarity to realize if I want to help on another level, I need to go find attorneys. I need to go find, people in economics. I need to go find all of these other people in those industries, and we need to work together to figure out that change. But I'm not a lawyer. So I can't say, all right, well, justice needs to be served and we need to. I didn't practice law.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Now,
yeah.
the problem with activism, people just start reacting and saying, well, with no strategy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying I am focused on education reform
Mm-hmm.
because that's what I study and that's what I'm practicing. And so I guess my message is on a spiritual journey, make that you versus you battle and find out what your specific skills are.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not going to change this alone, but we all have to find our purpose, our personal legend, our gift,
Mm-hmm.
and do what you can where you are, right? So for all of us to, react out of anger and feel, and the anger is there. And don't get me wrong, because people, I know the James Baldwin quote, or people's like, to be, I think is a quote of saying to be black is to be like angry or to be in frustration or whatever it may
Yeah,
be,
yeah, yeah. Someone quoted it yesterday. Yeah, yeah. And to be black in America is to, and to be relatively conscious is to be in a perennial state of rage or something like that. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so that's why my messaging isn't for everybody unless people are understanding where I'm at. Because I said the other day, I am no longer struggling for race to continue to struggle for years to continue to struggle for race. Because what I am now understanding on a deep level is
yeah.
that
You know what? Hold on just a second, because we broke up just a little bit on my end. It might be me. I don't know. But you started by saying I am no longer, and I would need to hear what you just said.
I'm paraphrasing. My quote was pretty much saying I'm no longer struggling face to
You know what?
face.
We've actually, you're frozen. You're frozen at the moment. Hold on just a second. Let's see.
Can
Let's
you
see.
hear me?
I can hear you, but your picture is frozen. Is it saying anything about a slower connection on your end? Is it telling you anything like that? Give it just a second. Let's let it come back. Let's see. Can you hear me? Oh,
Okay.
okay. Let's try.
Okay, perfect. Is that better?
Yeah, that's all good. So you said I'm no longer.
No, I'm no longer struggling for race to continue to be struggling for race, right?
Yeah,
Years later, 100 years, after my ancestors struggled for race, to
yeah,
100 years later be struggling for race.
yeah.
And my ideology and base everything that I'm working on is my full transparency in saying my ideology may be wrong, right? How I see things may be fully wrong,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I'm at least trying something different
Mm-hmm.
based off seeing things years after years and realizing we're getting the same results.
What would you call that? When you say I'm trying something different, what for you? What is your? I used to ask people like, what message did you get from your mom and your pops or the people that raised you? Explicitly or implicitly. My mom, she never said it, but she said it in every other way. Probably was be prepared. But my pops would say the message I got from him was be curious. He's always tinkering and exploring. So if you said, if what is it you were saying that's new and
It's nothing. I'm saying just be. That's
mm-hmm.
why B doesn't have anything attached to it, right? It's just a big red font that says B. Grass doesn't try to grow. It,
Woo!
birds don't try to fly. They
Brother,
fly.
you're speaking to some esoteric places, brother. There's whole schools of thought that people train for this. So you're saying it's simple. That's that quote people say. It's simple, but it's not easy.
But
So
it's you know, and maybe let me put it in this way, right? Um, your children are of mixed race, right?
oh yeah, man, quarter kids, baby. I tell my girl you were African descended. A slave made it, and you were here. Okay, so you can speak your voice into all those spaces. But yes, yes.
Yeah, and it's important and it's powerful. But I always challenge, right? When they came out the womb, right? Right? When kids first are born, they don't see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
We know this, right? You can have, a young black kid and you can see a young white kid. They're not going to look at that white kid and say, you look different than me.
Mm-hmm.
They're taught the difference. Okay. And after I'm seeing this again and again, because what I believe is happening right now is the racial divide that I think the media is propagating, and that's speaking to this issue that, um, trust me, I've always had confidence in my blackness and who I am and proud of that. But I also understand the limitations of blackness in realizing that black is not a country
Mm-hmm.
and that blackness has only come from whiteness. So I try to tell people stop being white, because what is white? White is the quintessential that everything is compared to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I am black because this person is white, right? I believe in ancient times, you know, I don't, and obviously I don't know, right? But the social constructs that we are dealing with today, I think, are all connected to the Willie Lynch syndrome, or connected to these things that keep people limited to these stereotypes. And even our own people, I've said this. I mean, I remember at the USC protest, I said straight up, we don't have solidarity among us. So when people talk about the black community, please define it for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because when I talk about community and when I talk about organization, I'm a CEO, right? There's a system of operations and we have to move a certain way. So when I first seen Black Lives Matter, and I'm proud and powerful, but there is no organization. It's a hashtag,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And what we're looking at today, obviously there's people working in different pockets, right? And there's some leaders that are recognized more than others that are doing things. But why I'm so focused on Movement B is because I understand the control and power of my leadership there.
Mm-hmm.
Movement B is not just a hashtag. We're operations. We have to move like a company. We
Yeah.
have to build. Okay?
So you were woo, right in a lane. So a couple things come up in what you just said. So I have had that comment about, because part of where you were starting to go is almost all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter. And I know that's not what you're saying, brother. I know that's not what you're saying. But there's a kind of post-racial, like if we get super spiritual about it and Martin about it and maybe Gandhi-ish about it and
Yeah.
metaphysical, we start.
These are all labels that we've connected to it.
Yes.
Martin, Gandhi, All Lives
Yeah.
Matter, which is all kind of
Yeah.
the,
But still, when I appreciate the forest or the field, the flowers that are in it, in the tapestry of life, um, and all the flavors and pigments, I'm compelled by the particularity somehow. Something about the particularity actually beckons us into the universality. So I'm not as afraid really of walking just strong into whatever we might call blackness, African descent, recognizing our history and our place and our context and the current milieu certainly subjugates folks from that continent, on the planet. White supremacy is a thing, it's real. So, 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 my empowering of people in the particularity of their blackness, I don't know. I'm in my own mind, I think I'm trying to find a way to hold that as true while also celebrating the universality, right? So I'm not a separatist. I'm a celebrant, is what I say. So I'm not trying to, I'm married to a white woman. My mom is white. My kids are quarter, like I'm a member of the diaspora for real. I'm a celebrator of life. Period.
yeah.
I'm a non-dualist. You know what I mean? But I find my way towards non-duality or universality through an embrace of the yin and yang of both sides, right? And a recognition that there's light, there's the seen and the unseen happening here. And, it's carried out in graphic detail in terms of black and white folks in this particular country. But um, sitting with and considering the particular experience of black folks in this country and what can be done in that context for me, I don't know, man. There's something there. But I'm with you in terms of the organizational, like what's happening. I think, building on the Willie Lynch commentary, there's work to be done, man. There's a lot of ties that have been severed on purpose. There's a lot of roots that have been dug up kind of purposefully. So that's really the genesis of a lot of this, even this conversation. So if we just start contextually with where we are in space and time, San Diego, California, where there's palm trees and a warm breeze, and so much blessing and abundance on one level, what might we do here as folks merely unified by African descent? There's folks in the NAACP, in the Urban League, San Diego Black Chamber. You go to this church, you go to that church, you kind of lean left, you kind of lean right. If we can take all that, transcend and include, as they say, and still kind of find that high note of what does it look like to move and operationalize something that empowers folks in a particular way out of that place. Um, I don't know, man. I'm talking about call and kind of stepping out on faith. There's something in there.
I hear you, and I think that's what I've challenged.
Mm-hmm.
Right? History was written by who?
Mm-hmm.
So what we know is, I mean,
I'm
so
just
when
talking
I
400 years. I'm just talking the 400 years here.
okay, yes. So if I subscribe to the 400 years here,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm starting at a place
Mm-hmm.
where I have to catch up. I'm starting from an inferior place because what is taught to me in history is
Mm-hmm.
that I'm a slave,
Yeah.
and power to it because I've owned my blackness out of resilience,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which I think a lot of obviously of us
Mm-hmm.
still today, our success is from resilience. It's from my ancestors have been through the struggle. A lot of us still going through the struggle. But what happens is I speak to kids all the time about stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say, well, what's the stereotype about Black people?
Mm-hmm.
Black people themselves
Mm-hmm.
reinforce the negativity
Mm-hmm.
of Black.
Mm-hmm.
And then I say, well, how do I change that? How do I change your perception of yourself? And what I find is that it's difficult, and this has been new thinking for me, right? This has just been my spiritual growth of late, that whenever you try to resist against something,
Mm-hmm.
right, or try to force something, right, because I'm Black, look at me, I'm trying to this, help me, I'm this Black man, I'm 11-year-old Black boy, please don't kill me.
Mm-hmm.
What does it do? It creates more of the same. Because now, on a spiritual level, I'm just talking about words, and the words creating your reality,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And understanding your thoughts create your reality. But people don't understand at that point. And so when you understand it from that level, Martin, Malcolm, all of these people that we've looked up to, right? You say they had great strategies, but that's not mine. And people who have the courage in today's age says, well, look, this is my journey, right? People, are you like Martin or Malcolm? I'm like Nate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is what I think, this is what I see, this is what I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And for the work that we're doing, we're seeing success, we're seeing results, right? I'm talking about socioeconomic change for youth impacted by homelessness,
Mm-hmm.
for foster youth, right? For people who don't believe in themselves and understand who they are, right? So that when people get past the social constructs, that they see beyond the limitations of what the media may say about them. Now, if you don't wake up and begin to realize that the media has been pointing at Black people this whole time, you'll be like, wait a minute. Okay, you done killed this brother, you done killed this sister. We're the most affected by coronavirus. Now you done killed this brother. Oh, so you're using Blackness, you're using the constructs of race, right, to Willie lynch somebody because I can overtly kill you, I can overtly put racism on you, or I can brainwash and condition you so much that I put fear into you because of your Blackness, which other people who don't identify with Blackness, they don't have that burden. And now what is, I don't want to say upsetting me, which kind of concerns me is I have white brothers and sisters, and even now brown brothers and sisters reaching out to me. Oh, I feel sorry for you. That Black man, I'm like, why are you feeling sorry for me? Shouldn't you feel sorry for yourself? Ain't that a human being you see fucking lying down there on that street? That's a human being. But now, unconsciously, it's giving you a little more power because it's like, well, that's not me. That's those Black people. And now I have to play, oh, well, let me give sympathy to these Black people. You see what they're doing? No, that's a human fucking being, just like you. And to the point, until we get to that level, I'm not sure there will be real empathy. I feel like everybody who's saying stuff and doing things are just like, oh, I feel like we have to say this. You see what they're doing to Black people,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Black people themselves. You're seeing what they're doing to us.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. Obviously, a lot of these things are true and it's happening, but I'm talking about freedom, real freedom. Real freedom is realizing that you are not limited to a construct and that you don't have to react to the ideology. Because here, if we look historically, you know, in Australia, the Aboriginals are called Black too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Blackness was a term that was identified to make someone inferior again to what whiteness is. And we've claimed it. I'm Black and I'm proud, and I am.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But if we understand racism, we will understand linguistics. We would understand that the words that are being used and created and attached to something are limiting. But these are hard conversations to have because we've created so much Black pride and culture and integrity that we can't, to your point, if I say, well, I'm not Black, well, you're saying all lives matter, or you this whole kind
Yeah,
of,
yeah, yeah.
what I'm saying is I am free. And true freedom means I am not limited to any construct. That's not a racial construct. That's not a political ideology. You can't call me Republican or Democrat.
Mm,
Now, most people assume because I'm Black, who did I vote for? Okay. Well, Obama, we got to be against Trump. You don't know me, but you have made the assumptions. So my freedom is saying I can't allow anybody to tell my story, no matter what they may think it is. I am free to be whoever I want to be. And that's what makes me the happiest. It's a different ideology. People aren't talking about it, right? Because it seems like, oh, wait, are you selling out? Or you not Black? Come on now. Like I said, I do this work every day. And I'm working in communities predominantly Black, working with communities predominantly in poverty. Okay. So people know that they can't argue with me on this because they would be having to do just as much work, right? Because like I told you earlier, and I said somebody earlier, I said, you guys are going to post for 2 weeks. I'll still be making contracts with these schools to help these youth in poverty. You're going to go back to your regular scheduled programming and only going to come out again when the news media tells you to.
So, brother, I'm impacted by what you're saying, and I feel you. I'm in my mind, I go, okay, so what is the brother Nate doing in schools with poor Black and brown kids to transition them along this line? Is it because there's a thinking that I have around the importance of identity, ego, incarnation, call it what you want. Like the world of physical form, for me, there's a certain value in coming home to it so that you know what you're letting go of when you kind of progress, right? So there's something about that container, the form, the box, the structure, the thing. We're here talking because we've agreed that certain words have meaning, right? So we've made certain agreements around the structure. So some boxes and definitions are helpful.
Yeah.
So signifying, hieroglyphic signs, whatever you want to say, there's things we have to agree on to
Yeah.
communicate. So, um, and in the lanes where I've traveled, which are, let's say the Christian lane. So that's a box. Ooh, it's got all sorts of stuff in it. We'll just leave politics and everything else, masculinity, race alone for me. Just talk Christianity. That box, some people would rather just drop the box. Like I don't even want the label. Like cut it, cut me free. I'm on some direct lane to God thing. I don't need all that arbitration and all the language you put on it. And I've gone back and forth on that. And today, there's something in me that chooses kind of to work from the inside of it, to wave that flag and take what you thought it meant and say, actually, you think that I'm talking about this, but I'm talking about this. However you flip it, to build off of the consciousness where it's at and move it, right? So you got to have some sort of agreed upon language to then kind of take you to that next step. The consciousness that you're moving from feels damn near avant-garde. You know what I mean? Like a jet, like free thought. You want some free thought, brother. Like, and it's empowered and powerful. I feel you. I resonate with it. My curiosity is in the lane of education with poor Black and brown folks that you are trying to take there. It's I guess, and I'm hearing you say this and reflect back if I'm hearing right, that ownership of your own story and confidence in your own kind of sovereignty to own and tell that story. I'm the greatest and I know that. I'm the greatest and I own that. Am I summarizing? Is that kind of what's going on in the world?
I mean, in the world of grants, and obviously, as I'm talking to you, I mean, I would never call a youth poor, right? I wouldn't, but we have to use those. We don't actually have to, but obviously, that's the work that I do when I'm
Some of
kind of.
that's real though. So economically, resources, let's say, or
Yeah,
do you not even?
but again, that's why I'm trying at this point
Yeah,
to bridge the spiritual because
yeah.
if I think I'm poor, I am poor.
I hear you, brother.
That's what people are not understanding.
I hear you. I
Look,
hear you.
I am the greatest, and I know that. Shit, I know I got a lot of work to do.
Mm-hmm.
But Muhammad Ali said, I'm the greatest. I said that before I even knew I was. So if we are teaching our young people that they are inferior, that they have to fear the white cop, or that they're
Yeah,
poor,
yeah,
they're creating
yeah,
more
yeah.
of that. And
Yes.
that's where I'm realizing the wake up call is hard to share because
No,
people
I'm
are like,
getting
wait
you.
a minute, you don't get it. We gotta be
Yeah,
struggle. We
yeah, yeah, yeah,
gotta. But
yeah,
it's like if we really want real change,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
the secret is right modeling who we actually want to be and acting as so. So that's why I'm joyful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm full of love. I'm full of gratitude. Despite what I see, I know what I see, and that's hard to watch. But what I understand is that my leadership has to model the world that I want it to look like.
Yeah, brother, come on. So,
So
yeah, yeah.
people have to follow my example.
So, now we're hitting the hour mark, so I got a couple little kind of dismount thoughts for you. I so appreciate you taking the time to sit here and like build like this and to put this light
Again,
into the world. I really appreciate it. Um, um, who are you looking at? Models, inspiration, are from where you at right now? Do you do that? Like, who are you drawing from? Where are you resourcing from? What's the?
Yeah, I'm really into you ever heard Esther Hicks?
Yeah,
Esther
yes,
Abraham.
yes.
I'm into, I'm really into to the spiritual,
Yeah.
self-help, really words, affirmations,
Mm-hmm,
creating reality.
mm-hmm,
It just makes sense to me. You
mm-hmm,
know, very much is um, the understanding that you know I'm looking for the God that's within me, right? And
mm-hmm.
when I meditate, this is source energy. Um, I'm aligned, and I'm guided by that, and so,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of where I'm at, you
Bro,
know.
full stop. Full stop. Alpha and Omega, beginning and end, man. That's it. That's it. Boom. Mm. Whew, man. So in closing, oh my goodness. I don't know if you want.
What's next? What's next
Yeah,
for Movement
yeah.
B? Are we
What's
taking
up?
over?
Yeah, what's up, man? What's the deal? Where you going? What you
Let's
doing?
lay it out for the audience to know, man. I told you 79 LAPD officers, 2013. I could still be out here protesting, asking the white man to give me my freedom, or I could decide that freedom is mine. And
Mm,
that's what we're doing. We started off with one school, 10 students, 40 students volunteer after school to partner with schools all over San Diego to launching a GoFundMe. I raised $10,000 in 10 days. Created an online app. Who knew that 4 years later it was the only way we would be able to teach workshops because we would be in a pandemic, and that we would now be in demand because we have a whole platform that teaches social emotional learning. Okay? So now I'm talking to districts all across the nation.
Oh
Right?
man.
One district in particular, KIP, right, which is
Woo, woo,
big,
woo.
number of public charter schools. They have about 200 schools all over across the nation, predominantly Black students who are struggling.
Mm,
Setting up a partnership of how to license our online curriculum for those schools, working in the juvenile halls. Program has been a success, teaching those boys and girls in those programs who they are, knowing their story, working on recidivism so that they don't re-enter the juvenile halls,
mm,
okay? Getting them jobs and opportunities outside so that, they understand that they could be a brave entrepreneur and create their resources. I mean, there's no limit. We're working on music, hip
I
hop,
see you. I see you. I
right?
see you out there. Yeah, yeah. We didn't even get into that.
So urban education reform. If you can teach Shakespeare, you can teach Tupac, and
Ooh,
at the end of
ooh.
the day, give students what they connect to.
Mm.
Let students read. The reason why I didn't like reading growing up because I wasn't reading anything I liked. We all got to read To Kill a Mockingbird,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
And nothing wrong with it. I just, there's other stuff. I want
yeah,
to see characters that look like me,
yeah,
right, in a different space.
yeah,
That's where I want to, because I feel like as a disclaimer,
yeah.
I am the most blackest person I know because I am the most free black person I know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when Joe Biden was telling me I'm not black, I was like, look, I'm the freest black individual I know. So nobody can tell me what my blackness is. And that's when it hit me. If blackness is defined by how America is looking at blackness,
Mm-hmm.
then that's when I have to redefine what blackness is.
Mm-hmm.
Because my blackness is so free, I say whatever I want.
Yeah.
Because for me, you know, if I wear a do-rag to the office, if I'm in my hoodie, if I'm doing what I got to do to just chill and act as myself, there is no oppressor that pays me or limits me that I have to be in control to what he or she says.
Mm-hmm.
And so my whole message to people and to kids is to own who you are and don't feel like you have to react to anybody because I feel like this is, and I mean, that's for a whole nother conversation. I
Yeah.
mean, the
Yeah.
deepness of this is we're living in the Hunger Games and the whole political pandering is really to protect the elites who are really running everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
These families that have been around forever, but that's a whole different story. Okay. But when you own your story and you have the resources to take care of you and your family, you can go live on a farm and a land and you can raise your family and be happy, turn off the TV and get connected to the land and the source of what is there. All of this kind of other political, racial pandering and stuff, the media is a social media tweet and an Instagram post that will be talked about for a couple of weeks. I am challenging people. If you're going to get in that lane, be strategic and have work that's going to be years to come and inspire people on a bigger level because the reality is the media is not going to talk about the positive things that are happening in our communities on a consistent basis. And so you have to tell that story. You have to uplift yourself. That's a you versus you battle. And when I say tell your story before they do, I'm asking you who is they because I'm not telling you who they is. I want you to find out who they is for yourself. Come on, man.
Rap. Come on, take a sip. Take a sip, brother. That's work. You working. Or you're not working. What you doing? You're flowing. That's
And here's
freestyle.
what I also
Yeah.
say. And everything I'm saying, I'm open to criticism. I may be wrong. This is my story. Who knows? I'm just trying my best to figure out what's right because I'm not a politician. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, I don't even need your votes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't need your money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
if I'm not the best leader for it of Movement B, I will gladly step down and
Yeah.
allow somebody else to lead this.
Yeah.
Whatever it needs to be so that we can get to something that is attainable.
Yeah.
Solution. We're talking about program-based results, measurement.
Yes.
This is where this kid started. This
Yeah.
is the result.
Yeah.
This is not fluff. This is not just image and media and look at me. This is very much
Yeah.
strategic down to it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Bro, I appreciate you. I got to pivot, man. I can't even say thank you enough. Whenever we get a chance to build and sit and make eye contact, even though we're through cyberspace right now, it's always a pleasure. And I thank you deeply for taking time to kind of be a part of this little conversation and for shining your light so bright into the world. It's needed and a blessing.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah,
All right.
appreciate you.
Yeah.
Blessing.
Appreciate you, my man.
All
Okay.
right.
To be continued. We'll keep the conversation.